nowadays that most of organizations put emphasis in making our communities and cities more resilient. Can you explain a little bit what does it mean actually to make our cities more resilient?
Well, resilient is a pretty new concept actually. I would describe resilience as something more than pure disaster risk reduction, pure prevention, or pure preparedness. I think resilience is more something like an integrated approach that includes all potential stakeholders, not just the professionals, also the volunteers, but also the general public. So the concept of resilience from a personal perspective is more the holistic approach in reducing risks, in dealing with risks, in handling future challenges.
Mm-hmm. So what does it mean a resilient city? Are there any features that we can demonstrate and distinguish?
Yeah, a resilient city, as we also heard or learned in the CP model project actually, consists of several qualities. Mm-hmm. One of these qualities, for example, is the quality to be integrated. This is what I mentioned before, integrated in the sense of that people, organizations, all relevant stakeholders, they are working together in a certain integrated manner, which means that they know how to communicate, they coordinate each other, they coordinate among each other. This is the quality of integrated for resilient municipalities. Another one is the reflectiveness of resilient city or resilient municipality, which means that they are not just acting, they are also, after they set a certain action to increase preparedness or prevention or whatever, after they did it, they go back one step and try to think about what was good, what was bad, how can we improve. This is a thing that I think pure disaster risk reduction, pure risk management usually does not really include. And this distinguishes resilience from risk management or disaster risk reduction. And if a city or municipality has these, one or more of these qualities, I think we could say then that this is a resilient city or municipality.
Mm-hmm. In your area, which is located in the Alps, in Austrian Alps, you're probably facing a great variety of risks. How do you manage this situation? How do you try to mitigate these risks?
Well, of course, as you said, in mountain regions we are facing a certain type of risks, and in a big project we also found out that many municipalities are facing a pretty similar risk landscape, as we call it. So what we try to do is we are not inventing solutions again and again. We try to bring them together. We try to initiate a mutual learning process. So this means that if one municipality develops a strong and well-designed solution for a certain problem, they are supposed, or should be motivated to share this solution with other municipalities who face the same issues. This works on a very local level, mm-hmm. meaning I can have a very small town and having a mutual learning project with another very small town next door. But it also can be on a bigger scale, like we can exchange among districts or even among provinces. Or as we also had it in Austria, we also initiated mutual learning exchanges, expert exchanges on the national level, meaning that we brought in experts from Sweden, for example, to learn how Swedes are dealing with floods and try to find out what can we take from their solutions, how can we adapt it to our needs, and how can we implement this in the Alpine environment.
In your presentations yesterday, you mentioned that you have developed a project actually in a national level in order to mitigate these risks and actually implement all these issues that you mentioned. Can you tell us something more about this project?
It was actually not on a national level, it was on a provincial level. Austria is divided into 9 provinces, and we're talking about the province of the Tyrol, which is actually located in the heart of the Alps, as we say. And the idea of the project was to develop a project or to conduct a project that includes all 279 municipalities within this province. So it's not an isolated solution. Mm-hmm. It's one approach, it's one certain set of tools and a certain set of services that we provided and brought into each of those 279 municipalities. This really means that our experts from the province of the Tyrol, but also from Albes, we visited each of those municipalities. We organized workshops. We tried to bring in the necessary experts. We tried to bring in external experts also to get an external view on things. We brought in the software tool that we developed, but we also brought in all the services that we can offer them. And of course, during this process, we learned a lot about their habits, how they are working, what are their challenges, what are they good at, and what are they bad in. And so we try to specifically develop solutions that meet their demands. And meeting their demands also means that we have to deal with professionals. They have different demands than, for example, volunteers. Then we have the political leaders who are focusing or who have a different direction sometimes than the emergency organizations. Then we have the general public versus the companies that we are having in the province. So we try to bring together all these players, organizing a workshop, developing a common sense actually, and try to motivate them and to initiate an ongoing risk management process.
You mentioned volunteers. Is volunteerism increased in your area? It is something important. How do you consider the role of volunteers to achieve these goals?
It's very, very important. In Austria, we have a very strong volunteer system, which means that there are only very few, for example, fire brigades on a professional basis. Professional meaning that they are working full-time for the fire brigade. Of course, also the volunteers, they receive a lot of training, they have exercises, they are well trained, they have the best equipment you can have, but still they are on a volunteer basis, working on a volunteer basis. And so to improve risk management or disaster risk reduction, it's of course important to get these volunteer groups, whatever they are doing, into the boat and make sure that they join, they cooperate, that they also carry the idea of resilience and disaster risk reduction.
So it means that there is a necessity to train all these volunteers. How these are trained? For example, is there a system of training the volunteers in a provisional level or in a local level, or do you make this education through the project that you mentioned before, through the workshops?
Actually, I would say that it started through the workshops, but of course we were not able to provide nearly 300 municipalities with a full training program. But what happened afterwards, after the project, was that municipalities came back to us and said, okay, we saw we have strengths, we have weaknesses, we want to get rid of the weaknesses, we want to develop, we want to improve ourselves. So please, could you help us in some way? And then, of course, we designed on a very local level, as you said, training programs and exercise programs. And they are really specifically tailored to their needs. Meaning we try to pick them up where they are. Some are on a very high level, some are on a lower level. Some are confronted more with the natural hazards, others more with a technical issue because they have a big chemical company in their municipality, for example. And based on these facts, actually, we design a specific training program for them. On a local level, meaning we come to them, we bring everything we need. We start with a very basic introduction, then we are setting up emergency management teams divided into groups, bringing external experts for a workshop or for a presentation. We are always open for the question. You can actually call us, I would say, 24 hours if there is any question you have as a municipality. So that's the way we try to kind of keep pushing them. But I also have to mention that it's the process. We are just moderating, organizing, developing the process and approaches and the workshops. But they have to be driven by the municipality itself. So if they are not cooperating, we cannot do anything actually. We need the cooperation and the willingness to cooperate from the side of the municipality.
From what you have already described, this means actually that the municipalities should change dramatically their way of political planning actually in their areas, which means that they have to consider the mitigation of risk as the core of their plans, for example, the municipal or the local. Is it so?
Yeah, it's completely true. Of course, this would be our dream, our vision actually. But from the perspective, from the situation we have right now, it's I think from our perspective the best option to keep pushing them and push the education, push the risk management systems, provide the necessary tools, etc. Of course, in the long term, it would be even better if they are, and that's what also resilience is actually, if they integrate disaster risk reduction, the concept of resilience, the concept of risk management into their daily planning. So it's not like urban planning on the one hand, and risk management and disaster risk reduction and resilience on the other hand. But it should be, as I said, an integrated thing. This would be the perfect final status that we would like to achieve. And in some municipalities or in some parts of the province of the Tyrol, I think we are pretty far on this way. In some other parts, there is still some things to improve.
And do you think that this procedure or this methodology applies also to climate change? Can you use it also to adapt to the climate change situation?
I think it's exactly the same thing that I just explained for the last question, actually. Also, climate change is not something that is climate change, risk reduction, urban planning. It's also part of this integrated, or it should be part of this integrated system. I think it doesn't really make sense if we have a department for climate change. The department for climate change should be integrated into all other departments, like the urban planning, like disaster risk reduction, but also like education, for example.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.